All right, here we go. It is day 6. It is the last day, and right now one person showed up. That's okay. I didn't send out my email to remind everyone, and I know reminders are important. It is a Friday. This is what it is. These are the things that come up while we're trying to be consistent. Life gets in the way. We forget. We have other schedules. It is what it is. The big thing with this is, as important it is to be consistent, it's important not to beat yourself up for what you didn't do. It's this very weird dynamic. On one hand, you want to get the thing done and you want to have that pressure to get the thing done, but beating yourself up is of no value for the past. So you got to have the urgency, but it's not about beating yourself up. If any of you have had a dog, you've probably had a dog that ran away at one point, got loose. You don't beat the dog when it comes back. Otherwise, the dog doesn't want to come back. The dog doesn't understand what's happening. Your brain's the same way. A great friend of mine, brain researcher, whatever, was talking about with keys and people leaving their keys at home or forgetting, losing their keys or just forgetting something. Well, we get mad at ourselves. Oh my gosh, where's the keys? I always lose my keys. Why can't I do this? Your brain literally says, look, keys are bad. And that's why you're putting them in places and forgetting about them. So we need to have these more positive associations. And when we're trying to go, there's going to be failure. So do not let that beat you up. Do not let that get you down. It's assessment. Having that emotion is, oh, I'm this, I'm that, falling into those negative beliefs we talked about is of no value. You need to assess. This is what happened, and this is what I'm going to change or not to move on. Now, I have an interesting story. Somebody I know, he's a younger guy, but he was really big and he wanted to lose weight, but he was also running a successful company that was growing really fast. Now, what he did is he went to that extreme level of accountability. He hired a personal trainer who was also watching what he ate. And this guy was traveling all over the place. He was paying for the flight and the hotel room. This is how committed he was to losing his weight, but he didn't lose the weight. He had a nice period of time where he did lose some weight and he did get in shape, but at some level, he realized he just could not do all those things. And on Wednesday, I talked about this, but I didn't have the graph available, but this time I do. So this is what you want to consider when you are setting your goals, setting your commitments. There is an optimal level of stress that you want to have. You want enough stress so you're not bored. Like if I said, hey, let's go play a video game and you're not a video game person, there is zero interest. There's a thing called stress, which we all know of, and then there's a thing called eustress, EU stress. This is the positive stress. This is that thing that makes you want to go do that thing. And so if you have no stress that's fearful and no stress that's positive, you're not going to go do the thing. So the stakes have to be raised a little bit. This is like putting sugar in medicine to get the medicine to go down. The opposite side is the burnout. This is when I say, hey, you're going to run a marathon on Sunday. And you're like, oh my God, there's no way, unless one of you is in super, super good shape. And what happens is when we hit that burnout, we just do nothing. We are just like an abused animal that's sitting in the corner. Oh my God, I can't do it. We get overwhelmed. And what happens on New Year's Eve so often is we set these goals that are way too big. And then when we actually look at them, we get too far on the stress. This is the other piece about not having a plan. All right, I'm going to travel to Nepal and climb the Himalayas. Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. I don't know who to talk to. What about oxygen? What about this? Oh, the visas. Never mind, not going to do it. And this is really what happens. And this is why what we've been talking about in these 2 weeks is to have clear set paths, steps. The goal is great. The goal is fantastic. I talked to someone who had just a fantastic, huge goal yesterday. This is 10 times anything they've done. And I said, well, that's great. So what are the steps in between? And they hadn't really thought about the steps. This also goes to something else I talked about. They had that big goal and it made them feel good, but it wasn't about how to get there. Now, the nice thing about having that big goal is it does make you think, well, what am I going to do? How do I have to set my life up to make this happen? And planning all those things, getting that clear path is important. All right, so get rid of that little spot there. So I think what happened to that guy was he has a company that's growing incredibly, but the stress of trying to figure out these other things, we just have a limit. We have a limit on our capabilities. And I know that may sound terrible because we want to be limitless, but we also have to be honest with ourselves. So setting goals. I drank Mountain Dew for like 30 years. And then I came to realize I think the yellow dye in Mountain Dew was causing me some pain based on some, doesn't matter. So I was like, okay, I am going to stop it. So after we had a vacation, I just said, I'm going to stop. Now, I'd wanted to stop soda before. I'd wanted to stop drinking this. I just raised the stakes a little bit and I said, well, I like experiments. That's why I offered this up as an experiment, a study to you. I like to test things. So I said, I'm going to test this. I'm not going to drink Mountain Dew and see what happens. And what happened was 90% of my aches and pains went away. I'm one of those people who seems to have an inflammatory response to the dye in Mountain Dew and other things. So now I was like, okay, so I stopped drinking it. But what I told myself is, look, I'm not going to quit soda because I know just the way I am, who I am. There's something about soda I like, the fizziness, the sweetness, whatever. So I said, you only get to drink either Coke or Pepsi. That's it. You don't go to any other colored drink. You don't get Sprite, nothing. This is your limit. I'm restricting it, going down to a constraint. Then I did that for a year. And then I said, okay, I think it's time. I've weaned myself off of this. I don't actually super enjoy. I mean, I enjoy the Coke, but it wasn't like I got for the Mountain Dew. And then I saw something about diet soda, and I'd been against diet soda, and this thing switched. I'm not sure where you land. I landed somewhere else before, but now I was like, well, I'm going to get the calories out. So now I've switched over to diet. I have a horrible sweet tooth. I don't drink bitter things. I don't like coffee, whatever. So this is my thing, is having these sweet sodas. It's hard for me to let go of this. But what I did is I tapered myself down. In a year and a half, I've gone from Mountain Dew to no sugary sodas. And I think at the beginning of the new year, I'm probably going to drop all sodas as well, because I think there's still some things that aren't that good. But trying to change it too much, like I've done many times, backfired. So this all just goes back to this curve, is finding your sweet spot. We have to be urgently patient. You want to be urgent in the things you do, but you have to be patient for the results. And I'm really the person who's really bad at that. I've done the keto diet. I've done this other thing to get stronger faster. I've done this other thing to trying to make everything fast. And this is why I'm doing this class, because I've just really realized it's that slow, steady path that will really get you where you want. All these herky-jerky starts backfires. Just trying to make sure I'm going through this. Michelle, are you around? Jennifer, can you, I know you can't do video, can you do audio at all? Oh, you're not feeling well?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, good day. How are you today?
Doing great.
Yes, excellent.
So I wanted to at least talk to one or two people about the journey so far. I know it's only been 2 weeks. I realized I'm trying to jam a lot of stuff in here. Have you been able to use any of these things to help get yourself to be a little bit more consistent? Are you in a different place than you were 2 weeks ago when we started?
Yes, I definitely am. And I'm happy how you summarized it today, because that was my biggest thing. I would put this big goal in front of me, not chop it down into small pieces, and then beat myself up when I'm not accomplishing, right? Or getting to my end goal. And I've realized that no, all you got to do is break it down bit by bit. And um yes, it needs to be somewhat of a routine, but don't beat yourself up so much that, oh, you have to do it at this time, and if you don't do it at this time, it's the day is wasted. I feel like I've accomplished a whole lot in the last 2 weeks. And I'm very proud of myself, actually. I have literally in my hand right now this morning, about maybe an hour ago, I got my ebook all drafted up and it's ready to go. All the illustrations, it looks phenomenal. So I'm going to spend this weekend just to go through it. And then my goal is by next week, Monday, is to have it up and, with a price tag on it where people are buying it. So, that was part of my journey with joining you, Mike, as far as this consistency. You've kind of helped me stay on course with that. So I want to say I thank you very much.
Well, I'm so glad. Of the things that I've brought up, the concepts, strategies, tactics, whatever, is there anything that stood out to you?
I think the constant reminder of, um, there's another, Hank Avick says patience with a sense of urgency. And I struggle so much on that too. Like, I understand the importance of buying the shortcut from, pre-done systems or pre-done this, and yet to just absorb and sit sometimes with your own goals, that there aren't shortcuts for so much of this, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if there are, sometimes those shortcuts backfire. Like, I've done weight loss things, right? Oh, okay, if I eat your prepackaged foods, well, what if I don't do that for the rest of my life, right? So then you gain weight again, and then you have to learn how to actually eat and how to actually move. And um, I like that, the patience piece of, I'm very much there with you. I'm not a patient person. I want it done now. I want to write it done and down and then have like 10 things accomplished in the first week. And it's just not realistic. So it's helpful for me to think that I'm not broken and that there's other highly successful people in my same mindset sometimes. So that was good. And to be able to connect with others like that was nice.
That is an important piece. You are not broken. None of us are broken. We are just doing our own little thing. It's not it, but it feels like we're broken because it looks like we're comparing ourselves to everyone else and you're not seeing what's really on the inside. We're just human, right?
Well, and so much we're comparing our step, A compared to their step Z, right? So it doesn't ever match up.
I want to say something that was super, super important. I've been at a lot of real estate conferences. I've got to talk to some of the people behind the scenes and found out that what you see on stage is not the truth quite often. They're telling a story. The story is a good story, and the story has a good lesson in it, but it's usually the shiny version. And I'll tell you two stories. One was I was director of sales for a team, $50 million team, and there was this guy up on stage talking about Boomtown, one of the CRMs, and he was talking about how he had it regimented with his agents, and if the agent didn't do this, there was this, and blah blah blah, and it just sounded like this amazing system. And I was like, oh my God, I got to talk to this guy. So I grab him after he's done talking, and I said, hey, so well, when this happens, what do you do? And he's like, well, that's a little bit different. And I said, oh, well, if they don't do this, then how's that work? He goes, well, and I was like, son of a gun. That's not exactly how he did it. He was not as strict as he thought. It didn't work as well as he made it. It made it sound good. It made it sound hopeful to you, but actually enacting it was not real. And then I had another opportunity to talk to someone, and I was like, hey, I heard one of your friends up on stage, and he was talking about this thing about how he did this. And he goes, yeah, he doesn't do it like that. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, he sounds really strict, or he sounds really disciplined, but that's to make other people who come into his organization already have an idea of how things happen. So he's putting it out there so he doesn't have to deal with it later, but he is not nearly that disciplined as he makes it sound. And so this is not to tell you not to believe in people, but this is to tell you when you hear those big stories, they're not as perfect as you think. So the person who has the huge weight loss, the person who's running every single day, the person who does whatever, it's not that simple. That's not to say to not do it. That's not to say not to strive to not do, or to that you don't want to do it, but just understand, man, there is a messy middle that very, very few people talk about. And you may be going through your messy middle. This may be it right now while you're trying to figure things out. But don't judge yourself. Just keep pushing and create your own story. And then you decide how you want to tell other people and inspire them. Can one of you tell me, have I talked about the opponent process theory? Skydivers?
I don't think so, but I've missed Wednesdays, so I don't know.
Okay. So I've been trying to jam a lot of things in here in these 2 weeks, and this helps prove to me that this has to be a much longer thing like I was thinking it was. But I want to tell you this one. So some of you have probably gone on vacation, and then after the vacation, you kind of went into a semi-depression. Not depression, but you just like that, oh my gosh, I wish we were there, whatever. Or you've been scared. You went to a haunted house, you went somewhere and you got scared, and then you felt great afterwards. You maybe were giggling, whatever. This is called the opponent process theory, and this is based off what they found with eyes. Maybe when you were in school, maybe biology, or maybe on Facebook, you've seen the image of the American flag and it's black and green. And you stare at it for 30 seconds, and then you look at a white piece of paper, and your eyes got overwhelmed by just staring at those two colors, that the opponent process is trying to make that balanced. And so when you're looking at white, now you see a red and blue flag. And what they found is that your body is always trying to balance. If you get cold, your body will shiver. If you get hot, you will sweat. If you are angry, your body's trying to get you to this harmony. It's always trying to get to this homeostasis. So if you get angry, it's bringing in the opposite kind of hormone or whatever. If you get sad, if you get happy, it's always trying to bring you back. And so when the stimulus, whatever it is that's causing it, goes away, you flip to the other side. So if you're really, really scared, maybe you start giggling. They found this, they tested this with people skydiving for the first time. They were terrified, They jump out screaming, whatever, they land and they have this feeling of euphoria. Maybe they didn't giggle, but they just had this feeling of euphoria. This is why the people who are the daredevils, the thrill seekers, they keep doing something bigger and bigger because they want to get that push, because they don't have that fear doing the little thing they used to do, jumping off the little ramp. They want to jump over the Grand Canyon like Evel Knievel back in the day. So how does this apply to you? That thing that you're not looking forward to doing, that thing that sucks, the calls you don't want to make, the people you don't want to talk to, pushing yourself through it actually is going to most likely make you feel great on the other side. You've probably had a day where you had really hard work to do. That feeling of accomplishment is like, oh my God, it's done. Wow, look at all I've done. By the same token, those days that you felt bad, where you not necessarily felt bad, but where you just didn't do anything and you really didn't have an up or a down, and you didn't have a change, your whole day was kind of ruined because you just sat there. I feel bad, I feel bad, I feel bad. But it didn't get really big. You just had this low level of meh. The opponent process theory helps give you permission to go do the crappy thing. Go do the hard thing. Eat the frog first. And you're likely to feel fantastic later. Whereas if you avoid it, you're not really having any bump. You just feel this low level of meh. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that makes sense.
Have you seen that anywhere in your life?
When I get my laundry all done and I'm caught up, there is like euphoria for, 10 minutes until the kids take off their socks somewhere and throw them behind the couch or something. But yes, and chores at house. I do think real estate's really hard to have those like mountaintop moments though, because you have a closing, yay, and then you slide down and you need another closing, right? And you're like, oh man. So being more and more used to, I think, and allowing myself those up and downs, like, great, go get another buyer, go get another seller, right? Like to constantly have more mountains going at the same time is better than to have the one that you're focusing on. But absolutely, I think it is. It's looking at it though, I definitely do have more of that in my home chores than I do in my business at the moment. So maybe I need to do some more scary stuff in my business.
Yeah, the scary stuff is where we grow. And I remember I was telling someone, "Oh, I have a close." And like, "Oh, are you excited?" And I was like, I don't get excited till it closes." And then it did close. And he's like, "Oh, are you excited?" I was like, got to move on to the other thing. I've
Yeah.
tried, I've inadvertently in my own life to kind of keep myself a little bit more here. I don't have those high highs and low lows necessarily. I'm a little bit
Yeah.
more in here. I don't know if real estate kind of beat that into me.
Right, because you can't celebrate, stuff still crashes, like it could be delayed. I just had a client die. It was the
Oh,
first time I've been orphaned by a client, and
oh
I'm
no.
now dealing with the family, and it was just like thinking over the last couple of weeks, and of course then my own little vent moment. Then the family complained to my state broker, and I'm just like, you're kidding me. Like I have done nothing wrong, let alone nothing mean. And so I actually did a video with for them and sent it by email and said, you know, I apologize. Email tones are so hard to read sometime. Like, let me try to communicate in different ways and, not just by email. And so I sent a video of, you know, I'm me. And when you feel who I am, I'm not the person who you just said I was, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really hard. But I think real estate definitely, I mean, it kind of makes you a little crusty around the edges sometimes. So,
It does. Well, I think I think that's probably everything that's worth covering. Is there anything that we can talk about to help you two individually to help you with wherever you may be?
do you have knowledge or research skill, your own personal, of how to help people figure out what way they can connect to things? Of like, okay, if you're tracking on a whiteboard, or are you tracking on paper, or are you tracking on your phone? Like, I feel like I've tried so many different ways to try to track some of that consistency, and I don't know if it's the tool that I just don't like and I'm not realizing, like if you're a visual learner, is it better to have it on your dry erase board or anything like that that you've ran into?
Um, I've gone through that same series myself. I've done paper, I've done digital, I've done a whiteboard. And as you're saying that, and I'm trying to think about where I fell off, I think I fell off because I didn't do the task. And I didn't
Mm,
want to admit that I didn't do the task.
okay. I'll
And
kind of watch myself and see if that's some of it, because I love the idea of whiteboards because it's right in front of you. But then I was picking up my kids the other day and I'm like, I made this huge list on the whiteboard and now I want to add to it. And I couldn't see it in my head anymore because I had done other things. And so then I was like, this is why I hate things that are stuck in one place. I love digital. I didn't
um,
know.
so what I will be sending out to you all today is a Google form. And what it is, it's a daily check-in. It's up to you guys. I think that may help some of you stick with whatever you're working on. But the idea I think is you're checking in with me, which means I'm expecting it, which means you may be more likely to do it. And for some of you that don't have a daily thing that you're doing, it still helps remind you of the goal you had because it's easy to forget about it. Now, I know that this is not the foolproof thing because it's still another little chore you have to do. But sometimes knowing that somebody else is going to look at it, because for ourselves it's just hard in our head. Well, I'm doing it, whatever, and we just let it go. Um, this may be an extra step for whoever wants to do it. Maybe that helps, that you know that I'm seeing whether or not you did it.
Yeah, definitely the best year I've had was I had a little bit more accountability to my husband. On Fridays we were meeting, like, and it was that little piece of I had to have something to report, not just, did you get stuff done? What did you do? I don't know, right? And Michelle, I was gonna say you should send Mike your ebook so we can all check it out and sign up for your list or whatever, if it's, you know, kind of not a personal thing that you don't want to share, but I'd be interested in seeing what you're up to.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It is a real estate book, so it is geared towards helping realtors to understand a certain program that will help buyers with no down payment, no closing costs, and no PMI. So it's a program that a lot of people have not heard of, or they are not sure how to get through it. So I've cracked the code, and I am
Awesome.
going to help as many realtors as I can.
Yeah, so
With
send it to me and I'll send it out to everyone.
Thank you so very much.
So, thank you. I know not everyone's here, but I'll be saying out the replay. Thank you everyone for participating, for being part of this. You helped me immensely. I will send out that Google form so that you can use that, and I will see it, and there'll be a spreadsheet, so I'll actually know how often you did if you want me to be part of that accountability. If anyone wants to link up with anybody else, I've just been keeping everyone's email blind copy just because I'm just personal, keep everyone let their personal space. But if anyone wants to link up with anybody, let me know and I'll put you two together if you can. You could be accountability partners. And then the last thing is I'm going to start an accountability. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this for 12 weeks, starting in the 3rd, because everyone told me they weren't ready to start on the 1st. So I'm going to start it on the 3rd of January. And I'm going to do, it's a 12-week course. I'm going to put it out to the public at $297. I'm going to send you guys a link if you want to do it. I'm going for $197 if you're interested in that, because I really appreciate the time you put into this. You would be immensely useful to be in the group to already have gone through some of the stuff. I will take things a little bit slower. I jammed a bunch of information at you guys. I will stay to just a half an hour in this series that I'm doing. And I think I'm going to make it like the first 15 minutes are the most important part, because I know it's hard to show up and say, well, I'm going to be here for a half an hour with a lot of things going on. So I'll send you all links. And the last thing is, if any of you could email me any positive testimony that you have of me or what I'm teaching, that would be helpful for me to sell the class, super helpful. So I'd appreciate that. All right. Any last words? I'm going to